Hello, friends. Ray here, and today I think I'm going to do a very interesting animation with Ray episode. So yesterday I re-downloaded Cascadeur, this time 2025, the full version, and I had a great time. And I was able to, as you see here, animate this backflip. This is my first animation back, having not remembered most of the features. And I was able to put this together in maybe 20 minutes or less, which was really impressive to me. And what I wanted to do was maybe compare how quickly I could make a backflip on my 3dsmax rig versus how quickly you could make one in Cascadeur, and maybe sort of compare and contrast some of the features and the functionality to see, which one would be better for which case. So that's what I believe I'm going to do, and hopefully you'll stick around and watch, and hopefully I can animate both of these tricks really quickly and not make myself look bad. Alright, so since I've already done a backflip in Cascadeur, I'm going to get started with my rig in 3ds Max. So as you can see here, I'm sure you've seen a few videos of this. It should be pretty familiar. One thing I'm going to do here, I guess probably to expedite my process a little bit, is to load up the poses that I've already made for these types of animations, specifically for this guy too, actually, or similar style rig, at least like proportions wise, and hopefully that'll expedite this process even more to make it kind of comparable to Cascadeur. Definitely this is something that is more, I would say, centric for, like, this is created for somebody that's a 3ds Max user, whereas Cascadeur, from what I've noticed, seems to be super duper effective for just anybody. Like, I think I could have done that, hung over on an iPad and made that backflip. So this here, it pays to have a little bit of 3ds Max knowledge and knowledge of Character Studio Biped. But for somebody that does, I think that would make this a lot easier. So we'll get started just by creating a few poses on like random different frames and kind of making sure that we like the timing of it. So we'll go with standing tuck setup, paste that. That'll be like our sort of down pose, and then 2-foot set for when he jumps. And then shortly after that, we'll put tuck. And then, what are those for? I don't know why he has a frame there, but he doesn't need that. Yeah, so the crouch, the jump, the tuck, and then maybe we'll tuck him for another couple of frames, just make sure he holds it good. And we'll make sure that he stays stiff in the pose by taking this and sort of copying it, and then these two. Oopsies. Copying it and copying it. So he holds the tuck stiff. Nice. And then he's going to let out of the tuck by about there. I'd say open, recover, maybe 2-foot. And then we'll just kind of take the arms and we'll move them out a little bit, maybe like that. And then I'll take this pose here and we'll just kind of copy that and have him standing in at the end. So we'll make sure that we have a key for all of his frames, and then we'll just copy that key and put it about there. So how do you feel about that? Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe we could stretch out the amount of time he's in the air just a little bit, right? So we'll take air time. I'm going to add a couple frames, add a couple of frames, and then add a couple of frames. And then just in case, add a couple frames and add a couple frames. Alright, so that's a little better because it's running at 60 frames a second, so it's a little better than 1 second. As we can see here, our center of mass is all off, so I will quickly align him. And now he is aligned. So let's put some breakdowns here now, because we know that we want the arms to kind of shoot up by like not going around the back of his head. So let's put that frame back and then kind of mess with the positioning on it, like so. Page up a little bit, go for that, page down, and then just make sure that, yeah, we have our arms nice and by our side. So yeah, nice. But we also don't want them going back around his head when he does the backflip. So we will sort of break that down a little bit so they come back. Nice. And that looks good to me. Fix the pose a little bit. Once again, we'll just align it. Nice. And then now we can animate the actual, I guess, flip rotations and stuff. So I always do the backflips on this one. And we just know that, let's say in this frame we want it to be about like that. And then by the time he lands, let's say about that, it would be our landing frame. And let's put that there. But we want it to be rotated approximately 360 degrees. Maybe not quite. By the time he gets to here, yeah, definitely. Okay. So now it's getting a little bit nicer, backflip looking, and it looks proper, right? But we obviously need his center of mass to kind of jump and whatnot. So we will do that now. And then like that. And let's say like that. And then when he lands, let's say about like that. And then there we go. Nice. So boing, and then let's actually go into the curve editor and make sure that we get our jump trajectory just right. All right, cool. Let's make that a little smaller and move him up here so you can kind of see it. And then let's go find it on a Z. All right, cool. Make that nice and tall. So this is our landing frame, and this is our jumping frame. And so we're just going to adjust this curve here so that he goes up in the air better and lands and absorbs it. Like that. Bam. Nice. Alright, cool. And then so I guess the last thing that we can really do here, I think he would be a little bit lower there. And then there too. The last thing that we really got to do then is just do the inverse kinematics on his feet. So that should be pretty quick. Let's go in here and go to the motion panel. And let's just make sure that on the frames that we want him to be planted on the ground, his feet are planted on the ground. This is a similar process, in my opinion, to Cascadeur, where you just switch the interpolation of the specific like layer part of the body that you want. I think there would be a great time to continue. Oh, it's a little too, yeah, nice. But what we'll do is we'll make them look like they're jumping, so we can add a few more frames to that. Did we do that right? Okay, cool. Does not seem to like it when I adjust the angle of both feet at the same time. That might be my fault rigging. That might be a lot of stuff. But all right, so we got two feet kind of in their jump era. Maybe another frame out. Nice. Bam, and then I say when he lands, let's go ahead and put the same sort of frame. That ought to do it. That is a good place to put our sliding key. Put one there too. Don't need that, and so we should slide. All right. So next thing I'm going to do is kind of just make it so the feet like walk a little bit to what they're doing. So we'll click both the feet, and we'll make sure that they are good. And do we have them on the ground this time too? Yes, we can. Okay. So we'll make sure that the feet kind of stick a little bit better before we start moving them. All right. Now I'll do 1 foot at a time, and I think like we'll just take this and then we'll make it move back to there in that frame. So he steps, and then steps again with the other foot. So then starting on that frame, we'll move that like there, and then he'll step with this foot. So now he takes 2 little steps back. Nice, easy. Definitely a lot more polish could go into these animations, but I'm trying to just make them quickly to compare the amount of time it takes. So then he lands here, and then let's go ahead and take both feet, oopsies, and then give him a couple more frames to stand. And then let's take 1 foot and have him step, and then other foot, move that to like there, and then step. Nice. So we're pretty much there already with a good looking backflip. I think one thing that would help a little bit is if you took that and put it like there, and then made sure that it didn't quite get there as early as you want. Or maybe we like added like a back breakdown key, right? So just take that key there, make sure it's not until that, and then make sure we just add like a little bit of juice on that. Cool. So that's pretty cool. And then I guess the last thing we'll do is we will align it one more time to the center of mass. Cool. And then we've pretty quickly made what I would consider to be, in my 3ds Max rig, a decent backflip. You know, obviously, if like, you know, I like it that he kind of like comes back a little bit and clamps up, and then like the knees hit him and cause him to flip. I think that looks badass when people do like that. But if we didn't like that, we could always just, you know, effectively change his rotation a little bit more there, and now he jumps back a little more. So yeah, there's a 3ds Max backflip, and I'm gonna say it took about 10 minutes. Hopefully, we can go faster or similar time for a similar quality in Cascadeur. Stay tuned. All right, now I'm guessing for the moment we've all been waiting for, we're going to animate the same backflip, or at least a very similar one here, although on a different character, in Cascadeur. And so we'll just go ahead and get started. And I'm not even going to have to load the poses here. I'm sure you can do that, but it seems like the posing is very easy. It's like when I move his arms, it kind of, you know, if I want him to do the backflip pose, he just like kind of assumes a position no matter what. So it makes it a lot quicker, and loading poses you might even need to do, which might lead to more customizability and more differences in pose. But then again, it is, you know, AI assisted auto posing, so there are certain, I'm sure, things it tries to adhere to, which, you know, you could maybe have to animate around if you really wanted him to look a certain way. But this is very nice and helpful. So we got our little start pose here. Maybe go out to like here, and then just sort of, oops, hit a frame, and then kind of put him like that. Seems about right. And then maybe we'll take all of that for this frame here. At least, and that maybe. We'll just kind of come down like that, and like rotate him a little bit more like that, and then just take the arms and kind of, yeah, and then that we can kind of have him look a little bit, and then maybe kind of move him a little bit back. There we go. And then let's get our jump frame on here, and for that we're just gonna move his arms around like that. Oops, forgot to put a frame. That's nice about 3D Max is you get the auto key thing. I'm sure it's a button I'm forgetting to hit here, but even without it, I think we're going to animate this backflip pretty quickly. And so we will take that, kind of move him like that, and then yeah, and then maybe add another pose here. I think this will be like the super extent of his jump, and hopefully that'll look super cool. Move his arms even more up. His head, actually, for a good backflip technique, you don't want to look backwards. You want to look straight up, like in front of where you're looking. It's called spotting. It's a technique that gymnasts do to like maintain their air awareness, so they know how high they're going. You sort of look at something across the room and see like how far you rise based upon it. So there we go. There we go. All right, and then next one obviously is going to be him tucked up. Oops, forgot to put that frame again. All right, tuck him up like that, and then let's take those arms there and kind of something like that with it. What I like is it's even like I don't really even have to look at the front that much. It kind of just assumes like a little bit of asymmetry for him, and that kind of, that's nice. There we go. I guess if you look at his center of mass on the ground, he's technically traveling forwards a little bit when he does the jump, so we'll have him kind of stay in one place, I think, because that's a proper backflip should land and jump in the same spot, in my opinion. That's how you get the most air. For what it's worth, knowing how to do a backflip might actually help you do this a lot faster, which I definitely can actually do a backflip. But if you know the technique, even if you're not able to do it, you definitely can animate it better, more effectively. And so let's take his arms, let's sort of put them down around his legs for the tuck. Not really going to worry about the hands too much here because I didn't on the other one, and I don't want to waste a bunch of time with these poses where, you know, the other guy, the other rig in 3dsmax didn't really even have hands. So, all right, so he jumps and then he tucks, but obviously we want him to be a little bit more rotated here. So back to global and something like that. Maybe. Yeah, that'll do. But not quite that high, maybe. Although I'm not sure it's going to matter, because Cascadeur is going to fix whatever little physics problems that I happen to have, which is really nice about it. So we'll keep on rotating him there, and like that. Maybe not quite that forwards. Yeah, I guess that looks weird. Like when I'm seeing it on the ground, the center of mass position looks weird, but for me in the air, I think it looks cool when he kind of like coasts forward a little bit. That's not technically realistic, but Cascadeur is going to make it all better for me, so it's all right. And we're going to continue him a little bit. Oops, hit F. Then we continue him a little bit with that. And let's sort of take his legs and kind of have them get ready to land, and then maybe his arms, have them come up a little bit, and then the whole thing move a little bit forwards, like that. And then maybe there we have him be, I'd say, that'll be like our first contact, not with aliens, but with the ground frame. Now, I am sure that oh my God, I love this auto posing thing. Like, just pulling his legs down, like, fixed the whole pose. So yeah, I'm sure I definitely could have done this even quicker without, you know, all this rust that I've accumulated by not animating in Cascadeur for a long time. But just goes to show like how little, you know, I remember about this, and yet how quick I'm still able to create cool stuff. So move those arms down. There we go. So as you can see, like through the blocking, I'm just watching it, and it looks pretty good. No curves or anything like that, but we'll see how it looks with the curves, and then pretty much we should just be able to let physics fix it. One thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm just going to copy this frame to the end, and then I'm going to take these and put them like that. Cool. But those feet, we want those to be in the same position. So what we're going to do is we're going to check where he lands there, and then we'll go to legs. I think that's what that L is, and we'll just copy that frame right there. And because we moved him a little bit, we will move, I guess, all of him, if we can, like that. Cool. And so that seems to be a nice basis for a backflip. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all the intervals, and I'm going to go to interpolation, and I always click easier viscous. And so now we're starting to get what appears to be a better backflip. Unfortunately, we've got some weirdness with his arms moving straight to where they're going. So for here, I'm going to click FK so that his arms do the right thing and not the wrong thing. For here, I'm going to click FK as well, but I still don't like what his arms are doing. So we're going to turn this back on, and we are going to put a frame, and put a frame on this one too. And then I guess we'll just move the auto pose nodes and put these arms down by his sides, because he is swinging them around to generate the torque and the upwards momentum of the center of mass that we need to create that backflip. So there we go, that's perfect. And I'm liking that. So I guess the last thing we want to really do is make sure the feet stay planted, so that when the so when he lands, that I'm going to turn that to linear, and then little jump part there. I don't know why I put actually, okay, so I didn't need that key there for that at all, but we did need that to be linear. Nice. And so now we're getting something a lot closer, in my opinion, to what a backflip should look like. I guess I'll go ahead and put it linear on those two, on the legs, just because it makes it easier. And then, okay. So, oops. That is pretty close, right, to our backflip. I think it's at a little bit too slow of a frame rate. So we'll make it 60 and play it again. We're close, but it's not as cool and physically correct as we want it to be. So we can really quickly fix that in Cascadeur by just clicking the physics assistant button and letting it tell us what's wrong. That was sick. Alright, so it, you know, gave us the right amount of height and everything. I'm going to go ahead and snap that real quick to the physics ghost. And we'll also go ahead and set, I would say, a few priority frames, right? So I really like that frame, and I really like yeah, that's about it actually. So alright, cool. Change the physics settings though. So we set ourselves a priority frame, and then one thing I want is the trajectory to be smoother. Do I like that better? I do. Alright, what about the rotation? Turn that on. Alright. Nice. That's good too. And I think the last thing that I really want is secondary motion. Yeah, that's going to make it look cool. Nice. Just adds all the breakdowns in there for you. And I would say that is a good enough backflip for my taste. So we'll go ahead and snap it back, turn off all the stuff, and then turn off that, and then our guy should look like nice. All right, so I would say it took about the same amount of time here, but I did make all the poses, and we made a nice backflip. Maybe even a little bit more proper in technique than the one we did in 3dsmax. But yeah, I'd love to know people's thoughts about this, and I love Cascadeur for this reason of how quick and effective it is. And so I hope to make some cool videos with this in the future, and I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on which one you thought looked easier and what your animation techniques are, or feedback of, you know, which backflips you like better. So thank you for watching, and everyone have a good day.